They were smart.
She's so
They met
Stacy's
in
so
June.
We feel your pains. We do.
Do you guys
What
walk
was
over?
What
was in the entry or the journal back then?
Say it again?
What was it, 18?
1824, June of 1824. Holly was talking about 100 years, getting close. Anyways, they met in June 6th of 1884. And Shane asked whether Dale was part of the commissioner.
If he could hear you,
It
it's
took
probably a
two,
great somebody.
took 2 days for their first meeting. That's the bad news. The good news is they didn't meet again until December.
Took care of it all then.
The moral of the story is get everything in by the end of May because you won't see us till December.
There you
It was
go.
Shane Thomas who said that.
Oh, are we on?
Yeah, we are.
Just
Start all over again.
going back to the basics. Fundamentals. All right, we are in session for a work session. And today we wanted to talk a little bit about the HR assessment. Start with that.
Sure, I will begin. We commissioned Julie, not Julie, Lori, thinking of Julie here, to do an assessment of our HR function, and as far as I know, well, you tell us, give us a summary there. Just a quick and dirty, how many people did she talk to and that kind of thing?
She got every department other than 3. Maybe 6. And so the support was there. Everybody went through their litany of what they currently do, how they handle current situations, and her recommendation was that the county move forward with a HR department, HR.
Director or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so, here's the unusual circumstance that a county or any government body is in. And that is that we have a number of elected officials running specific departments. Those elected officials have the choice of implementing their own human resource policies, days off, those kinds of things, or they can stick to a standard. My concern has been that although I believe the benefits and all the blocking and tackling of the human resource function is done very well by Tasha, there are things, we can't expect her to do all the things that human resource people do, because this day and age there are factors regarding home medical leave and problems with drug abuse and all these kind of things that, you know, possibly could need some counseling, and there are new regulations all the time as it relates to human resources. So we believe, by virtue of this report, that we do need to have a specific human resource function within the county. Now, 2 questions, or more than 2 questions, but at least 2 questions in my mind arise. 1, how would we pay for it? And 2, what would be the composition of that department, and what specifically would be their responsibilities, and would we get, or could we get buy-in from the elected officials when it comes to adopting their policies and procedures? So I guess in sum, that's where it's at. Lori took 6 months or thereabouts to get through all this, did a very nice job, presented it to us. So I'd like to try to move forward in some fashion to talk about how we would structure a human resource department in the county.
I know that after the assessment, and you know, when I read through it, and then after she was in and talked with us and so forth, that just the huge liability that we put the county at, and this is no evaluation on what currently is being done or has been done, that kind of thing, but it's just because of the changing laws, because of life, the evolution of things. There's just a lot of things that are far greater, escalated, higher concerns from anything from social media to just, you know, like I said, the regulations and those kind of things, that I think we are at the point to not keep the county at that risk level and to do something to get a department, a director in place. Just for discussion purposes, you know, a thought process on how we figured that and what that looks like. I don't know that you can get the right person easing into it on a part-time basis and with it help that, then that person helping us get it developed into what it is beyond the part-time person to a full-time. Can we work on this and get to the point because of the financial piece? We've gotta have some ideas. I think we talked numbers before of what it takes to have a director, if you're gonna hire a director with experience. Of pushing that to closer to a third quarter, where we see that where things are at, and if need be, we say, well, we're gonna budget for it, we're gonna have them come on board in the next budget, and we know when we budget, we gotta make that fit. That means if all things were the same, is something else gotta go, or are we in a better financial position, adding it on is not a big deal?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to get some feedback from the electeds and the department heads to talk about what percentage of an individual's time is spent in the human resource function. And if that percentage of time was eliminated, or a great deal of it, would they be willing to scale that back in their budget process? Like I know, for example, the sheriff is somebody full-time or near full-time doing HR?
I know he uses Clemens Nelson contract service
Okay.
for most of it, but I think he has staff. I don't know if she's full-time, deals with his HR or not.
She's
Okay.
full-time, but I don't believe that's her
Well, I
only
mean, we have to have,
task.
I mean,
Yeah,
one of the,
yeah.
one of the
That's
biggest,
the challenge, yeah.
one of the biggest numbers is DJFS. You know, would
Yeah.
they be willing to come into the fold, so to speak, as one unit? And then each department spends a little bit of time doing human resource function, whether it be payroll or whether it be, you know, benefits or whatever the case might be. So I don't think that it's gonna be a person. I think that it's probably gonna be a department. I mean, I think we're probably gonna have to have a human resource director, somebody to do maybe benefits and some administrative assistants. That's at least how I see it, although I would want whoever was hired as HR person to determine that.
Is there ever a situation where an employee is housed in more than one elected official's camp? Like half-time treasurer, half-time auditor, half-time commissioners, half-time treasurer? Has that ever been, ever happened? Or has it always been, somebody's always in a silo?
I believe it has in the past.
It's just for my
I
own
can't remember the
edification.
departments, but I think it was a dual, or an employee that had responsibilities for a certain time of year, and then a responsibility in another department. I think it has occurred.
Yeah.
Just another way to skin that, the halftime thing. If
Yeah.
somebody had halftime duties at the sheriff's office and could give halftime duties to the HR director, or something like that. I don't know if there's more of a solution there or more of a headache there, but.
Yeah, so, I would think that one of the first steps, at least from what I see, would be to ask all the department heads and the electeds to sit down with us to talk about whether we can get their buy-in for the HR director, number one, and whether they would feel comfortable following standard policies throughout the county. And whether or not they would look at their budgets from an HR standpoint and agree that this HR director, whoever it might be, would also be the HR director for their specific areas. And to see whether or not we could come put a pencil to it to see if any money might be available based on that discussion. And I think it's important to get people's buy-in.
And Clemens, is there any place we can cut their contract?
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
feel
right.
like everybody pays a little here and there for
Yeah.
Clemens, and if we could absorb some of their roles.
And I agree with Commissioner Stacy, and I don't think anybody's in any big rush here. You know, it'll probably be, you know, a budget year, 2020, that would make the most sense, or at least gear up for that, so we know where we're at.
The gal from Heidelberg that used to be in a county, was it Erie County?
Erie County, yes.
I'm not sure if she was the one talking about this, or we were just talking about the fact of, you know, that buy-in. Initially, you know, some might say, fine, good, that, yes, that's a load off my shoulders if we aren't dealing with that. Others might say, well, let's see how it goes, a little more reserved. Some may be the total leggers, I'll let you know in a couple of years, kind of a thing. But I think that we're going to have to expect that. I don't think we'll expect everybody to jump on board just like that. But I think once they start to see that it is working, that their employees are relieved with this, or glad that, you know, they've got someone, because there's probably far bigger issues that, like I said, that they can't get answered now without us calling Clemson, because it's outside of any of our expertise. Whether it's the supervisor or the individual employee. So, I mean, I think it's going to, well, I'd like it to see we're doing this and everybody follow and everybody go, but I think we're gonna make segmented into 100% buy-in, is my guess. But I still don't think that's a stop, I think we still need to do it.
In the training component, to get the training
Mhm.
consistent across all electives,
Mhm.
and, you know, deciding, you know, this year we're going to do hostile, you know, active shooters, or whatever the training
Right.
is. I think that's a benefit to our employees and getting them trained to a certain level, and we have the resources, and I know people are using it, we've looked at that data, but there's not consistency in it as far as what we're doing or what we're focusing on.
Well, I think what we're doing now, again, the folks that are doing a very fine job, but we are basically putting out fires. We're not being proactive in the training process, as you say, in any number of other areas. I mean, it's an employee benefit as well, because, you know, sometime a county employee may have a situation where they really don't know what to do they really don't want to talk to their boss about it, okay? So they want to go to HR, at least have that conversation. It could be 1,000 different subjects, but I think that's important for folks to be able to do.
Yeah, and that's one thing that Lori did bring up that I thought was very relevant, and that was having a confidential, neutral, third-party location where any employee can go and not feel scrutinized. And that was a very valid point that I hadn't really thought through. So that's another goal that could be accomplished.
So, a game plan might be to get the electeds in, and the department heads to at least have that discussion. So if we could schedule another work session for that, maybe? Does that work?
We tried
Yeah.
one of those.
We've had some buy-in. I guess, you know, I think we're at the step where we can just say, you know, are you gonna be able to liberate a half-time salary position? What kind of give back can you give? We're at that location where we're going to build a budget and try and figure out what's available in the general fund and what's available coming back from Job and Family Services.
And I
or
think,
whatever.
you know, homework assignment would be maybe to call a couple of counties to find out what type of a budget, just a true cost budget they have in the HR area. What can we expect? When we had the discussion, she included benefits and those kind of things, which is,
Sure.
I mean, that's a big number, but just the actual expense of having that department.
I know the gal in, Tasha, you help me remember here, when we were at the SEBCO meeting, Ashtabula that spoke, and she gave the example regarding wellness.
Mhm.
Wasn't that Ashtabula County?
Where she talked about the coworker she had.
Yes.
I don't remember what county that was from.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was, yeah, Casey was, it was Ashtabula, because I knew the commissioner from CCAO board, and I asked him afterwards, I said, I take it she's not new to that position. He goes, oh, no. He goes, but if you guys ever, and I was kind of telling him we're going through this, and I knew we had the other person, he goes, but anytime if you guys wanted to pick her brain, she would be a good resource, because she's been doing it a few years and that kind of thing, and I'm pretty sure it was Ashtabula County. Lauren, something, but, so I think there's resources like that out.
Sure.
Definitely out there that are gonna be more than willing to talk to us, and
So if we can figure out what we think our budget range
Yeah.
is, and then what kind of money we may be able to save in other areas, then we'll know what we're gonna have to put into it. I'm not kidding myself, thinking that we're gonna be able to fully fund it, by, offsets other places. And when we're taking on a ongoing expense, sometimes the capital expenses are a little easier because they're one and done.
We wanted to, yeah. No, this would be ongoing, you're setting yourself up for that with an employee.
So, I guess we find out what the top number is, and we ask around what we can expect to save back into the general fund, and then look at our 2020 numbers and see if we can make it fit. Keep us under the salary cap.
Yeah.
Julie, you have anything as you've been watching this process go, Tasha, appreciate you guys coming over and being part of this, so.
No, I mean, you're not the first board of commissioners that have had this thought, and I know it's been out there for quite some time, so.
Do you think there's any more urgency now? I mean, just given the times and,
Well, I think certainly the Me Too movement, is in the forefront with people, so those kind of things lend itself to other things. My biggest fear, and I've heard this from other counties, I can't put a name to them, but I've heard it from several auditors that their county made the investment like you are considering, and then departments didn't use or elected officials didn't use, so here you had this compensated person at that wage not engaged in that role. So that's gonna be a challenge for you.
yeah, and elections happen, so people change and, there may not be consistency there, so.
Yeah.
Some people may come on and buy in after new elections, and other people may not. So-
Yeah, and I'm sure the other boards of commissioners have talked about this ad nauseum, but from what I understand, we're the first ones to bring it to the point where we're saying the time's come. And we're not, the can is gonna stay here instead of getting kicked.
Tasha, did you have any other thoughts, or?
My biggest, I'm not concerned, but I think the biggest challenge you're gonna have is to get the consistency across the board from all the different electeds. I feel like there are certain ones that are not going to wanna mold to what you want, what you want them to do.
Do you want to name names?
No, no. I think you
Shane!
I bet you can guess the same ones that I'm thinking, so. That's my thought. I think that a lot of them are gonna wanna stay the way they are, and
Yeah, I mean, it's probably some of the same ones who we had to beg to talk to the people that reviewed things, so, yeah, we get it.
that just seems like the biggest challenge I can think of.
The good news is that most of those situations are very few employees, most of them, okay? So, I mean, if you're talking about departments that have 4 or 5 people as opposed to departments that have 200 or 300 people, so, there is a big difference there, I think. And hopefully those smaller departments will eventually, maybe they'll get enough of a scare on a situation that they will.
Which are the 3 that didn't meet? Do you wanna share that or not?
I mean, it's public record. The treasurer was one, but he was leaving, so we didn't really, push him to do that. Judge Kelbley was unavailable and sheriff was unavailable.
I do think that's going to, in itself, just again with the concerns from people who've seen it, why the right person has to be hired in terms of somebody with some experience and with that skill set to, they may have years of experience, but they were in a company and everybody was a have-to thing versus,
Yeah.
pave your path and make it work. So, I mean, it just, comes with that skill set hiring.
That's right, yeah. Hopefully.
And we want to add value for the taxpayers. I mean, we're not looking to just create
We'll make sure
control.
that the HR person is 10% salesperson, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And?
In the beginning, to use all of it.
Yeah.
All right.
But,
So you have 2 small departments there and 1 large department in that mix
Yeah.
of the ones that didn't meet.
yeah.
I don't know if they're interested or not interested, but
Yeah, but we want to make it very clear, and again, I hope that it comes across very clearly, is that the folks that have been handling this in the different departments have been doing a great job, you know, with the sort of resources that they have and the ability to answer questions that they have, but none of them are professional human resource people, and we can't expect them to know some of the ins and outs of family medical leave and counseling and whatever else might happen out there. And again, you know, it just scares, it just feels like there could be a situation somewhere along the way that could put us in harm's way unless we handle it properly.
Yeah, there's not many 600 employee shops that don't have a full-time HR director. Just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I know of none.
If I
Yes.
could just say thank you for acknowledging in the kind words you said in Tasha's regard concerning her functions and what she's done in the past for this county, so thank you.
It's easy to say when it's true.
And then we wanted to, is there anything else, are we clear on that? We're going to try and establish high-level budget, we're gonna see if there's any places we can carve out a little revenue and figure out what that delta is and take a look at the 2020 budget, see if we can make it work. If we can make it work, we'll bring it back here and we will begin the process for a search. Is that where we're at?
I think so. I think the question that we need to ask the department heads and electeds are, not only can you carve anything out, but how many times do you call Clemens that you might not have to call them if there was an HR person here? I mean, I think we can quantify that, right?
Yeah. And it can be, it can be a ramp up. I mean, there's gonna be a point where we're gonna continue to have Clemens and we're gonna have staff coming on.
Mhm.
And then that, as we build that institutional knowledge, theoretically, that contract would begin to decline. But 2021, it might be both,
Yeah.
for the confidence. You know, Sheriff's not gonna have confidence day one to go into union negotiations without
Yeah.
his consultants, which is what it's gonna be. All right, do we wanna talk about some software issues? I know Mike spent some time on this, I think Holly, you spent some time on it. I've
Yeah, well,
not been
yeah.
engaged, so.
We have all, at one point in time, had some conversation about VIP software. You know, we've got some electeds that are telling us unless things change, they're gonna have to hire additional people. We've got some concerns about software. My concern has been that we've had this discussion for 4.5 years that I've been here. We've been talking about the inability for the software to handle all the concerns we have across the county. And not necessarily to handle it, but the functionality of it isn't user-friendly enough. And it is a topic of conversation, and nobody's ever come to me and said, boy, I really like this. It's always been conversations to the opposite of that. So, we have had this contract for how many years? I know I keep asking you.
97, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so over 20 years.
Yeah. We did the upgrade in 11, 12,
About 5
the
years
upgrade
ago.
to this VIP.
To the current software
Yeah.
was, the contract I think was done in 12 or 13, more like 14, 15 for implementation.
Yeah, because it was after I was here. I mean, I remember we had the meeting over there and we got to see the,
So that would have been 12,
I started 13,
13, okay.
so I don't know what year it was, but I was here.
Well, and I
Some
called,
upgrade.
you know, I called them and asked them to come in to do some training and to do some evaluation and to find out what the heck's going on and doesn't working. My main concern at that point was that DJFS was gonna come on this year, and I wanted that to try to be as smooth a transition as possible. And I know communication is a two-way street, part of it may be my problem, but I've asked them to follow up with me, and they were in December or thereabouts, January. December, and I have not heard from them since. I would have thought that, you know, if we voice some concerns and ask them to do certain things, that there might be some follow-up. I've not spoken to anyone from that company unless you have.
He came up to give me a brief synopsis of the reports that I gave you. And that's all I've heard from him since then.
So, the big picture question is this: is it time to have that software system out for bid? Are there other companies out there who do this same kind of thing? Is the VIP system the best available to us? I don't know the answer. I haven't predetermined or prejudged that. But are there other companies out there, and should we bid them? Based on the fact that we don't seem to get any resolution to many of the concerns that we have. It's supposed to make the payroll, for example, go much smoother. And as far as I know, the auditor's office is still doing the judge's payroll, or some of them, because they can't seem to get it to work right in their offices. And, that's 20 years into it, so that's probably exaggeration. I suppose payroll didn't come in for some time after that, I don't know. But, we're basically doing some payrolls back on a spreadsheet, right? That's about as old a technology as you can get.
Well, they're creating it, just to clarify, they're creating it in an Excel formatted spreadsheet that can be easily uploaded. There are several departments. JFS, for instance, is the same.
And they do that because the,
JFS,
Yeah.
because they have their HR or their timekeeping software, that they can extract it from that to upload, so they're not
so
keying
that's
it
not a
twice.
problem with using the
Mm-mm.
system.
Not in that scenario.
It's because of their state system for their HR stuff. Pay time off, all that stuff.
Yeah, I think it's just an efficiency piece, because then it's in one system, they can just extract it and upload, we can upload it into our system.
Well, we still have complaints about connectivity, the slowness of the system. I can't sign into the server. There are just,
Have we worked through all the connectivity issues on our side? Are those all resolved as far as?
We thought they were resolved.
I mean, everybody's on the new fiber, right?
No,
Not yet.
not that I'm aware of.
No, the fiber's there, we just don't have the switches, we don't have it switched over yet, but the VPN that was initially what we thought was causing the unhandled exception error improved, and then we had the, what was the update, the big update, Fusion? When we did the Fusion update, that came back. And I think to this day, departments still get that error.
So they're inputting, they get an error, then they have to start over.
Yeah.
Is that?
And honestly, I haven't delved into it. I know that it's been reported. My concern is, could it be software or is it connectivity?
Yeah, that's why I was trying to get to, we through the connectivity conversation, so that we isolate the variables here. All I know is we've had complaints from people who don't normally complain, so that gets your attention,
well,
you know?
yeah, and I think the fact that we've had this software for 20 years and we're still talking about problems says a lot.
Don't disagree.
It speaks for itself.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I also want to be able to go in to that conversation
Yeah.
and say we've done everything on our side that we can, and we've isolated the variable, and it's not connectivity, it's not training, it's not this, it's you. It's not about me, it's about you.
Yeah, well,
Or
yeah,
whatever.
Either that or they gotta help us identify what the problem is. I mean, if they're the provider.
Yeah.
yeah, the only thing I can relate this to, and it's, I don't mean to bring up previous lives, but we had trouble with the ATM at Westgate. And the phone company said it's the software problem, and the software people said, it's the bank's problem, and the bank said, we don't have anything to do with it. And everybody's blaming everybody, and the circle continues, and finally we said, stop. We're installing new software, and it better work, and if the software doesn't work, then it is a bank problem or a phone line problem. At some point, you have to eliminate one of the components to figure out exactly what the heck it is that's going on around here. We may hire a new software company, And we may still have the same problems. And it's because the department heads are elected, just really aren't really very enthused about understanding the new, the way things go. I don't know what the answer is. Again, I'm not saying that VIP might not be the best. Maybe we're not utilizing it the way it should be. I don't know. But all I know is that it's become our problem, because we got people coming to us. So now we gotta try to figure out how we're gonna resolve it.
Yeah.
Do we know when the fiber will be connected, or the switches, as you commented?
They're working on it. The fiber's ready to go. It's just a matter of, there was 20 buildings that the switches have to be programmed. It just takes a little time. I mean, I know a timeline that he said to me, but I don't wanna
Right.
give a timeline, and it's soon. It's soon, because I don't wanna
The
throw out a
month-
timeline and not be able to hit it.
Does the month rhyme with soon?
It was a secret message. I thought we could just flip the switch, it would work. Isn't that what that's about?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's what we thought about you too.
You're not safe.
Yeah.
I'm glad you were able to say flip the switch.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Just- you do
Switch
that
the
real-
flip this
Yeah.
time, yeah.
But some of the connectivity, which, I don't know. I mean, I think Jake or Buckeye IT and SSI need to get together to do it, and I think we need to stay out of their way to be able to solve these issues. Some of the departments are direct to the network that's directly hooked to the system, like people
So
in the
somebody-
justice. Like if it's our office, because I know we still get the error, and the prosecutor's office, they're not direct connected to that building yet until we get the switches on. But people at the Justice Center, they're on the network now. They're on the direct network, because that's what we thought the connectivity issue, because I know, Lisa Russell had some issues and different things like that, but I know there's people that say that they're on that portion, and that's what makes me wonder, is it both? I mean, we're not fully on the fiber yet right now, so
but
I
if
can't
people who
say
are
that.
direct, you've isolated that variable there. If you have somebody who's direct and they're still having similar type issues, then better connectivity isn't gonna be the answer.
Yeah, right, Shane, I think we tested that before.
Yeah.
And it didn't fix it, we just had basically a one-on-one straight connection, and it didn't seem to work.
And they gave us specifications. The last time SSI came in, they gave Jake's specific specification that says, if you meet this, and this, it'll work fine. So that's what he did.
We're there in every single category.
Yes.
We have an
So-
audit of that somewhere.
Yes, they have.
Do you have the audit? I asked for the VPN information from the outliers. I asked for it back like in September, October. I haven't gotten it yet. So if you have that, will you share it
Can
with
we
me?
make sure,
Yep, we can, because
let's make sure we get that to Julie.
Okay, give me something basic here, because I'm not absolutely certain. SSI is a company that we contract with for the software, and one of their components is the VIP software.
Correct. Just to give you some background, the county
Oh.
contracted in 1997 with SSI Software Solutions, Inc. At that time, up until converting to VIP in 15 going live, we were on basically a DOS-based system. So you remember the old green CRT is
Right.
very, very antiquated, right, Stacy? You
Yes.
were a user of that.
Yes.
So, I mean, we went leaps to where we are today. So yes, we've been a customer of theirs for over 20 years, but under this particular module since 15. And
15?
again,
How long?
since
15?
2015 is when
So
we went
since
live.
2015, okay. So explain to me again, besides VIP, what other programs did they run?
In our county,
Yeah,
VIP is the only module we have. We have the finance and the payroll.
so when
through
we
them.
say SSI and VIP, it's basically
One in-
synonymous.
For us,
Okay.
yes.
Do you have any sense for what other counties are running? I mean, do they have a high proportion of the market share for other counties? Or are
I
they a
think they've got
small player? I don't have this context.
I believe right now
Cisco.
Cisco.
No, I say Cisco, I think Cisco was the largest one we came across. Software, isn't that right?
Munis, is that what you call it?
Munis is a big
Munis, okay.
corporation, they're nationwide. SSI is pretty much Ohio-based clients and maybe Indiana. I'm not sure if they go in the other directions, but I know bordering Indiana. They have over a fourth of the state and they're continually getting clients.
So you think 20-some counties use VIP?
Mhm.
So if there's a user group,
Yes.
it's.
I mean, another way of saying that, the majority of them don't.
But some are still back in the DOS-based environment too.
Yeah, I get it, I get it.
As your smaller
Some of them
core
also are,
counties.
you know, leaps and bounds past us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's probably averages out, but
Where are we on the hardware side? Have we upgraded your server? Have we eliminated hardware as a culprit?
Not at this time. The server is close to ready to go,
Okay.
from what I understand. I know IT committee was working on policies, but it's been a while since IT committee has gotten together, so.
Because if we would eliminate connectivity and we eliminate hardware, then we're really talking about the software and the human interface with that software, whether it's training or.
If I could just
Yeah.
expand on the hardware piece too, the one thing that tends to get overlooked is what platform the departments are running on. Are they running on a 12-year-old PC? That, of course, is not gonna help matters either. So I don't know, I don't have an audit of what, you know, are they running Windows 7, where they're running, because that's a variable that could be in play too.
But if we're meeting the requirement sheet provided by the software vendor, that, I mean, you gotta assume that that's the best we can do.
yeah, to your point, I mean, there are companies out there that don't have a PC or a laptop or a server that's older than 3 years. I mean, their policy is that every 3 years they're replaced. And I know that's aggressive, but it may be something that the IT committee needs to look at, some type of a process by which things are updated, especially with the kinds of software and the kinds of technology advances that are happening all along.
And I know that's one of the things, and I gotta have to recall where we were at with, I know we were getting some sample policies from somewhere, I don't remember where we left that. That's the only hiccup, we just need to get that done, because, but like I said, I just don't remember where we left it, you know, we weren't in a hurry, because
Yeah,
we weren't to where we're at, and we're getting close now.
Well, that's really, I mean, that's really a
Soon,
bite the
apparently.
bullet, yeah, it's a bite the bullet kind
Yeah,
of thing,
yeah.
because,
But that's one of the things we thought would help too with the data center, is to, you know, on software upgrades that, you know, we can make sure everybody's getting, hey, this is available, you know, and the goal being, in all the departments that got software that's older, platforms that are older than this, let's get them upgraded to whatever it needs to be, and get maybe a rotation going if that's easier to digest, or whatever it might be. Because, you know, I'm sure that you guys have probably more current of anybody is the auditor's office because of your stuff, with your computers are newer, I know you got new computers since
I
I've been
chuckle
here.
because that's not always the case, however, the first of the year or at the end of last year, we did have funds available and did make the investment.
Okay.
So- But that's normally not the case.
You know, so like I said, you don't wanna automatically do it every
Right.
so many years, but like I said, that was one thing we looked at as a key component, and you know, when we pushed for the data center, was this is things like this would help, you know, the security issues and all that too.
So I know that the burden of this would be on you, but if we called a couple of software companies that work with counties and tell them that I don't know if you put out an RFQ or an RFP or what it is, I think initially we just have some conversation. And include VIP or SSI in that conversation. But I do think that, you know, diligence would tell us we gotta look at somebody else. Spend all these years, at least look at somebody else. I don't know that we've looked at anybody else since.
Yeah, and I'm sure the initial investment is huge. But look at the time we've had, some departments have lost and they would
Yeah.
claim they've already paid the price. I gotta figure it out.
And I would want to do that with, obviously with Julie,
Sure.
since, you know, it's started with all of her stuff, and so we meet with these companies, I want to make sure she was there.
Thank you. I mean, the initial investment for the commissioners was the updated, basically, modules to the VIP platform. We got a bird. And I believe that was somewhere around 86 to 88,000, if I recall, to go from the old platform up to VIP. And what is our current software support that we pay yearly?
That's
Tasha?
approximately 25,000
25,000. So
approximate.
it is, in that regard, relatively inexpensive. I had called other counties. Like I told Mike, I'm not married to them, so we want to do what's in the best interest of the county. But I got ranges from $1 million for a larger county such as Stark County, 300,000, $500,000, 800,000. So
I mean, initial
It's-
investment or annual?
for them to migrate to these counties
make
to
a switch.
migrate. But I did not get any of the information concerning, did that include 1 year of support? What is your yearly support? That
Ours
kind
is
of thing.
25 yearly.
Approximately. Might be 26.
Yeah, I think it'd be similar to the conversation we just went through with the Board of Elections, you know?
Yeah.
You wanna buy something that you also buy 3 or 5 years worth of support with, or
Yeah.
something of that nature,
Yeah.
makes a difference. I'm not married to him either, but we're not speaking to each other right now either.
But in fairness, I do need to say, you know, they came up and have, did the assessment, which was an ask by yourselves as well as other departments. Some of those items, well, you have it, you've read through it. Some of it is just maybe thought processes on how to use the system to replace current processes, whether it's an Excel spreadsheet or something like that, maintaining other reporting requirements that can be extracted out of the system. Some of the things they pointed out were addressed quickly or are in an upcoming release to be addressed. So there was value in bringing them in here, just for the few, not for the few, but for the items that have gotten addressed or in the works to be in the next release.
So you would characterize their behavior as responsive to you?
Yeah, and I apologize, I didn't know that they were supposed to reach back out to you, Mike. I mean,
Well,
they've
you
been
know-
communicating with me.
Yeah,
I guess I just would, you know, as much as I've had the conversation, they'll get back with me, the results, et cetera, maybe they thought by getting back to Stacy, they were getting back
That
to me.
could be.
But the fact is that, you know, I stamp my feet, clap my hands, and tell them they need to come in here and do this, and I need you to do that, et cetera, et cetera. And then, when they leave in December, never make one follow-up phone call. Again, it could be communication on my end too, I know it's a two-way street, but it just seems odd to me when they know that by my attitude, I wasn't happy with them, that they wouldn't at least reach out have some conversation, right?
Right.
That's all.
And I certainly would have made sure that they were aware of that, but you just shared that with me yesterday,
Yeah.
so. And I think that you're right, I think there might have been the assumption in getting with Stacy might have been the
Yeah.
communication needed, I don't know.
I mean, in their minds, they may have, like I said, communication works both ways, and maybe they thought they resolved it, but it doesn't feel like that to me at all. We had them up here for weeks.
Well, they came up and they did the assessment in the day, but it just took a while to get they had some upgrades going on, so that there was a delay in getting it back to us. but,
Scheduling.
Yeah, so.
Well, I mean, they had separate meetings with separate departments on different days as well.
No, it was all the same day.
It was?
They only wanted to make, well, I don't know if they only wanted to make, they only made one trip,
Okay,
so.
okay.
Should we collect some names of alternative vendors, at least have that conversation as to who that might be? Even if we're not sending out an RFQ, just to know what we're missing? 'Cause I don't know, I mean, have you done any due diligence recently on other systems?
I've seen some of the software in action, other vendors in action, so to speak, when we were.
At conferences or stuff like that?
Yeah, and when we were the commissioners were looking to make the investment back to VIP. But not recently, other than the contacts. And Stacy, I don't know, I gave you names at the time we talked with the dollar amounts. I'm not sure if that clicked. I can give them to you
Munis and-
again.
Yeah.
Again.
Well, while you call them about HR, you can also ask about what they're using software wise, right?
You know, and that's another thing we kind of touched on, is that SSI does not have a specific HR module.
Right.
So I guess it would have to be determined what exactly would the HR department, or what would people envision as far as an HR module? You know, is it a third-party vendor? If the county goes down a different path, what does that company offer in HR? I would be conscious of that going forward.
Yeah.
I assume that your staff has some frustrations too. I mean, we hear the other ones, but I mean, you probably have some frustrations.
I'll let them speak, but if I would go ahead first and then I'll talk. This is Barb.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess there are some issues that we encounter too. I don't know whether it's just the the software, the way we use it, or if it's something that I have some issues with the software.
Is it amount of time that it takes for things, or is it?
Sometimes it's just the load. Sometimes it's just loading of pages,
Yeah.
and other times it's you get that unhandled exception, or you get a error message like that, and it's like, I know I've done this before. Why am I getting this now?
Yeah.
I don't.
I mean, you guys are the most intensive users.
Right.
So you have the most lost time or
Right.
lost productivity.
Yeah, Barb, what environment did you come from?
I came from. I worked on QuickBooks. That was my software.
Sure.
So completely.
So completely different software, but I had used it for probably 12 years. So I knew the ins and outs of that software rather quickly. But I've also used other softwares that were much more user friendly than the VIP, which they're all out there. But I've used a gamut of softwares.
See, I think we're starting to get maybe kind of to the root of the problem, and that is you are an experienced software person, knowing how to manipulate different software programs. Okay, now imagine if you had very little experience with software, and we're trying to go into these systems and make changes.
Right,
I think that's where the frustration happens, because you're doing it all day, every day.
right.
And some of these folks are getting on at 3 o'clock on Friday and trying to get it done by 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if it's not user friendly, I mean, you get an app on your laptop, and if you can't navigate that app, what do? You just, click it off and don't use it anymore.
You're right.
Well, and
Call your
this is,
kid.
and we talked about that. Call the 5-year-old.
You
down
do.
the-
You do.
Yeah, I'll tell you too, probably. I got a 4-year-old that,
Thank God.
watching TV, and he goes like this, change the channel.
But Barb and I had talked about that, and one of the things too is that this is a web-based application. So when she says not user-friendly, I got the impression she was talking about QuickBooks, where your fingers never left the keyboard.
You can
But-
tab through everything, and you can get to, and with this software, you're here, and then you gotta find your mouse to go to the next thing, and I think sometimes that's frustration for people as well.
But it's the migration of where things are going. But you did comment on support.
Support is great. We usually don't have issues with them getting a hold of us. We put in a ticket, and we get calls, and if I don't understand the solution that they're trying to give me, they try to work with me to get it resolved so that I understand it, because a lot of times I have to take that information and relay it to someone else. So if I don't understand it, how am I going to be able to
You're right.
relay it to someone else?
So here's the question I have about that, is it's great that the support is good, but how often are you asking for support, and how much interference is that in your daily work? I mean, do you think this is a normal amount of time you ask for support, a terribly large amount of time, or somewhere in between?
No, I would probably say it would be a normal amount. I might put in maybe 5 tickets a week for support. And I mean, it may be 1 a day, but it could be 5 in 1 day, just depending on the nature of whoever is doing whatever. I use the support when it's necessary,
Yeah.
so,
That's what I mean, I'm trying, the point I'm trying to get to is in a software that's aged now 4 years, would you consider that to be typical, that you would have 5 or 6 support requests a week?
Well, recently I have Barb investigating different functionalities for us, so that's prompting a lot of support tickets on her. Are we using the system to the best of its ability? Therefore, we have to make a support ticket.
Let me change the language, let me change the question. In your previous life, working with software, how often did you have to ask for support during a week? During a month?
it would vary depending on the software I was using.
On
I mean,
Did you have a support for QuickBooks?
for QuickBooks, no. That was,
Okay.
I had to figure that out on my own. But other softwares that I have used, it was probably pretty typical to have 15 support calls in a month.
Okay. That's fair.
And I guess too, we're putting in tickets for anybody in the anybody in the county if they have a problem,
It's
not
not
just
just
our
us, yeah.
department. So it all
I get
comes
it.
back to us.
And that's what I had a couple questions from a couple departments, if there was any way that they could contact just a technical support. I think Sharon Skeel had mentioned it, like when her screen locks up and it says the specific error, you know, if there's just a 800 number that gets a generic tech support to say, okay, it's doing this, that way they're not having to, the department's not having to call you, have you drop what you're doing, you try to get a hold of technical support, and just relaying it through people. I know that was one thing Sharon had asked that way, because, you know, she's getting these errors and thinks it's more techie than what maybe, and the one example was payroll, thought, you know, she didn't want to bother Lori because she's, you know, is Lori really gonna know how to fix this? If I could just call, because she says like with her copy machine, she just calls the tech line with, you know, Jake. They just call Jake. They don't have to reroute it through, if there's a problem, you know, you call, and.
Yeah, it's structured in such a way right now that we are there to help, and if we can't help, then we get it resolved, or try to get it resolved, because then, well, one, if we don't know about these issues, we don't know if they're just reporting directly to the company, or two, it's difficult. We at least can maybe vet it out a little bit more if the question needs to be asked. Does that make sense? What, you know, get into the weeds, what key functionality are you doing, or,
I
things like
think, though,
that.
Julia, I get your point about not knowing, if you can't fix it if you don't know. But I don't know of any other situation in which an end users aren't given some type of technical number to call if they've got a problem, specific to their area. You know, I almost think that you gotta allow them, because if, you know, by some chance Barbara's at a seminar or at a meeting or a day off or whatever the case might be, it's just another layer of frustration for everybody. And it may not hurt the first time or the second time, but after that happens 3 or 4 times, you become more and more frustrated.
right, that's funny, I just had a conversation with my staff this week, that we, even if Tasha or Barb or myself are at a meeting, they know who to address things to get it resolved. So I've got some backup people in place.
So if the
Fine.
commissioner locks himself out of
He
the
texts me.
meeting.
He texts me, yes, you just text. But I've been through a lot of softwares in the county for different conversions, and had to learn different things. Went from the green, you know, the old, this color screen, case, big thing, what are they called, CRTs or whatever, back in the day.
Line white and green paper.
Yeah, I think that's why I have to wear glasses. But having said that, one of the largest softwares in the county, other than, of course, the 911 system, or those that reach the law enforcement, and I'm just speaking from my knowledge, we do have the real estate software, and that is a huge huge. Think about it, there's 35,000 parcels in this county, and every parcel has 10 different things that go with it, from taxes to characteristics of the home, et cetera, and all the tables behind it to support it. So it's not uncommon for us to have that many calls, if not more, in a week, depending on what process you're working on.
Who's the real estate vendor?
Tyler, Technology Sync. Tasha, you pay that bill for me. What does it cost us a year in support?
Thinking, I don't know, but I'm thinking like 200,000.
Yeah, it's 200,000 to 300,000 with support just on that piece, because it is big. And it
And you think you have how many
What's
service
that?
calls a week?
I would say 5 on the average. Now, again, the treasurer's office is a user of that as well.
Sure.
Sometimes they communicate with us, we can help them. If not, I'm not sure what their needs are there. So, and again, we're migrating into different areas that the county, some departments were just familiar with Microsoft Word and Excel. So we've been conscious of that this is completely outside of their world, and this is not the only function that they do. So we're taking different approaches on how we communicate and educate with those departments as well.
What would be interesting to see would be the call log for help. I'm sure they maintain that, and how frequently we're calling versus other users of comparable size. That might give us an indication as to whether or not we're having more problems with the software than your average user. That would be a good data point. And I think getting a couple vendors up here that are selling other software would give us an idea of what we're missing. And in the next 60 days, we're going to fix all the connectivity issues, and fix all of the hardware issues. And if there's not meaningful progress, then we have our data points ready to go. Does that sound reasonable?
I think we were all hoping that we would get to try it on the fiber to see what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we were hoping for, to see if that fixed things.
But if you're having problems in your office and you're getting those errors, then how is it connectivity when you're direct?
I guess I don't get the errors, but I don't do everything that Barb is doing.
Oh, well, and I don't get errors every day, or, I might get an error once a week, maybe. And it just depends on, and it could be that, and that very well could be user error as well, not just software. So, I can't comment that the errors that I'm getting aren't strictly software.
So I'd be curious to ask Lori, because payroll seems to be the big culprit of that error, and I thought she had told me before she's still getting those, but I can't ask her, she's not here, but
I take some of the errors to be, when we talk about this, is sometimes if you hit the wrong keys, I think you just lock up your system. I think that might be some of the user errors. You're maybe trying to ask it to do many things and they don't know which one to hit first. And I think it kind of maybe locks up. Maybe I'm wrong, I'm not an IT person at all, but I'm thinking if you hit the wrong keystrokes, maybe you've just done something to lock up your system.
and you're repeating that. Kylie gets it every time she does
Oh,
payroll.
okay.
Every time she
I
does
didn't
payroll.
realize that.
So.
And you're a
she's-
VPN, Stacy?
Yes, yes.
So-
I'm sorry.
We're on VPN, yes.
And she's tried different ways. Every time she gets that error, the next week she'll try it the reverse way.
You mean for entering employees in a different fashion?
Yeah.
Oh, they're
And she'll
good to
still
have them
get it.
log in to watch her do that then.
Yeah, we need to observe that. So when she gets ready to do payroll this week, I'd like to observe it. That way maybe I can help to communicate anything on that. Now, help me understand, because I'm not a techie. But the wire, we have fiber coming from the Justice Center, right, to our building, when they did that back in the day. It's been, what, maybe 6 years ago? Because it came from the annex and then,
Yeah,
okay, so we have fiber coming out of their building to our building.
right.
So then the fiber is there, it just needs to get hooked with whatever magical boxes they have to do?
Yeah, you guys are on fiber. You and the Justice Center. Spectrum provides your fiber through the Justice Center, so those two buildings have active fiber. It's like our office, we go wireless. To the Justice Center, we're still wireless. And the rest, and all those go through VPNs. So, but you guys are on fiber. And have been.
I guess maybe the
Right.
word I was looking for, maybe the intranet, is that the same thing as hooking up fiber to everybody? Instead of
Putting everybody on the ring.
intra, the
Yeah,
ring?
that'll be the Ring one.
That'd
I
be-
mean, it's active because of 911's on the
Okay.
Ring.
Okay.
It's just getting the network connections, so all of our offices, the Ring for the fiber needed 3 buildings. But we need 20 county buildings, so it was just a programming thing. They're still working on it.
Okay, so that, we'll all be able to hopefully talk better to each building.
And it's direct, it won't rely on internet. So if the internet goes down, we're still on an internet.
Maybe that was-
Or we're still on a
Okay.
network.
Intranet.
I think that's the word I was looking for more,
Yeah.
maybe so than try the fiber was maybe to try the ring to see if that fixed anything, but maybe
Is your
not.
software housed on your server, or is it housed in the cloud?
On the server. That's cloud. We're backing up to the cloud.
Backing up to the cloud, but it's not software out on the cloud.
So, and that's it's been one of the challenges because a lot of counties haven't had issues, but they're already in an intranet environment. They're not connecting as we were. So I think that was some of the confusion early on because people couldn't understand. It's not an issue anywhere else, but of course Seneca County. But if they're on the intranet, it wouldn't have been.
How would you like to proceed? I mean, we're not gonna make any decisions today, obviously, but we're
Yeah.
to give everybody a general idea where the conversation's going.
Got my homework.
You got your homework?
I got my homework.
Okay.
Is there anything you'd like me to do?
If we can get call log data and other vendors, that would be fantastic. If you'll observe Kylie and see if there's a human error there or if it's a system error that you're not seeing, those would be good things. And we'll do our part about getting things connected and get the hardware and fiber in place. High fiber diet for everybody. Popcorn's all about.
Was it high fiber or high five? What did you?
Stacy, does she start her payroll Monday morning?
No, she does it Fridays.
Friday. So do you wanna
I'm
have,
in Columbus tomorrow.
do you wanna have us decide that?
Yeah,
Occasionally, let us know when you switch the flip, buddy.
I'll talk to you.
We're gonna switch that flip.
Oh, we got 4 minute adjourn, we're still in session.
All right,